It is Wednesday, August 29th, 2018. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a very educational and very productive Get Your Ass Kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Wednesday. We did a little bit from a guard pull, straight from a guard pull into like a De La Hiva, but like it was a straight leg guard pull instead of just like jumping guard or some shit like that, right? But honestly, I felt very comfortable with it, and I think I need to practice it and like do it like 8 billion more times, because I think that's something that has a niche in my repertoire. But I certainly enjoyed it. We did 2 variants of it, and one of them you put your foot up on the hip and you got like a neutral grip, so like a collar and an elbow grip, and you take your foot and you stick it right in their hip, like right where the leg connects to the torso there, and you kind of push on that spot while you're pulling on your grips, and then as you fall down, you hook behind the ankle, and you grab the ankle, and then you go into either a De La Hiva or just straight push pull, and into a better position, hopefully side control. God damn, I got the volume loud. So yeah, hopefully into side control, if not better. And we did that variant, and then we did one that was like it went into a De La Hiva, and then a whole bunch of weird shit with the arm. I can't really describe it. It was odd, but I think given a little bit of practice, I think that I could work well with it. Honestly, the kind of body style that I have, there's this part in it where you maintain the grip on the sleeve, right, the whole time through. And you switch the grip from your right hand to your left hand while you have your left hand around your opponent's leg, right? And see, for me, after I've made that transition, I just want to lift up on the leg and push forward. I mean, because I'm straight on to side control, and if I was fast enough, I could like sneak my knees around his head without even disengaging his arm. And then slip under, go for the underhook over the top of his torso, and then get the arm. It's there. I feel it. I need to practice it though. I don't know. Hopefully, I'll be able to get in tomorrow. I didn't get in on Tuesday, and all I can say for it is this: that I really wanted to go, but I've had this project that has been holding me up, and I need to get it done, because like the sooner that I can get it done, the sooner I can move on to other projects, and hopefully all of the preparation that I've done so far will get it to where we can come to completion tomorrow, if not at least really well established, to where by the end of the weekend I can finally move on to other projects. Because let me tell you, man, they're backing up, and crypto's starting to get active, and I really need to be sitting in front of my fucking computer making money instead of fucking off doing this other stuff. But this other stuff has to happen so that I'm making money while I'm making money. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's go ahead and throw into some music. I'm so used to saying throw back into some music that we need a first dance. And I've been kind of lagging a little bit on my body count playing, and I feel badly about that, honestly. And so we're going to make it up to them. We're definitely going to give them the first dance. And this goes out to my homies that are making money these days. You've been waiting. There's been an ass that's been eaten in Las Vegas. Romano has fulfilled the prophecy. We may now get the fuck out of the bear market. Here it is, Ski Mask Way, First Dance, here on Coin Metal.
Police are hunting for 2 suspects in a violent home invasion. They're worried that these men may strike.
Sorry about that. I had to let it go. You know, the computer said, I'm not done with body count. I'm going to put this song on, and it had to be that one. So, you know, I'm not going to argue. It's fucking body count. What the fuck? Anywho, I spent the music break going through my tabs, and as usual, it's been very productive. I think we can make it through this show on what we've got here. This first one, I caught this, and I have actually got 2 articles and the piece of legislation that they're referring to. So I'm not entirely certain which order to go about this with. I mean, because we got it all like right here. Fuck it, let's go with the bill first, and then we'll go to the breakdowns and see exactly, you know, like where they got things right or where they maybe got things wrong. But we're going to review the legislation first. Let me get a sip of this because it's not terribly long, honestly. I like that. Alright. This is AB-2658, Secretary of the Government Operations Agency Working Group, Blockchain Technology. This ought to be good. This was amended in Senate August 17th, amended in Senate June 14th, 2018. Assembly, apparently it started in April 5th of 2018 and was settled in, or it's current, in August 17th of 2018. So here it is. California Legislature 2017 and 2018 regular session Assembly Bill, introduced by Assembly Member Calderon. An act to add and repeal sections 11.546.8 and 11.546.9 of the Government Code relating to blockchain technology. Legislative Council's Digest. AB-2658, as amended, Calderon, Secretary of Government Operations Agency Working Group, Blockchain Technology. Existing law, the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act, which we should definitely look up that one. Copy. Specifies that a record or signature may not be denied legal effect or enforceability solely because it is in electronic form, and that a contract may not be denied legal effect or enforceability solely because it is an electronic record was used in its formation. Among other things, the Act provides that if a law requires a record to be in writing, or if a law requires a signature or an electronic record or signature satisfies the law. That's an important step right there. Existing law specifies that there is, in Government Operations Agency, the Department of General Services, which shall develop and enforce policy and procedures and institute or cause the institution of those investigations and proceedings as it deems proper to assure effective operation of all functions performed by the department and to conserve the rights and interests of the state. This bill, until January 1st, 2022, would require the Secretary of Government Operations Agency to appoint a blockchain working group on or before July 1st, 2019. The bill would define blockchain and require the working group to report to the legislature on the potential uses, risks, and benefits of the use of blockchain technology by state government and California-based businesses on or before July 1st, 2020, as specified. The people of the state of California do enact as follows. Section 1. Section 11546.8 is added to the government code to read, let's see, 11546.8, for purpose of this chapter, blockchain means a mathematically secured, chronological, and decentralized ledger or database. No, that's not what a blockchain is. It's not a database. But this defines it as a database. That's fucking stupid. This section shall remain in effect only until January 1st, 2022, as of that date is repealed unless a later enacted statute that is enacted before January 1st, 2022 deletes or extends that date. I would really take issue with that definition. Let's see if they have that. See, it says database of transactions or other data, and they've reduced that to database. And that in and of itself is very, very troubling, because the fact is a database is not a blockchain. A blockchain can be defined as a database, but that is not what it is. I mean, it can only be defined as that. The way it is accrued, though, or acquired, is completely alien to the concept of a database in that it is not the product of a singular entity. It is a product of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of entities participating on a single network. Or, yeah, pretty much a single network. So, defining that as a quote-unquote database is... I would say mistaken at best and disingenuous at worst. Continuing on, I wanted to pause on that because the fact of the matter, I talked to somebody about this the other day, and as a matter of fact, I was reminded about it today while reading something else, that people concentrate on the bullshit. And in the context of Bitcoin, the bullshit is the blockchain. But what people should be concentrating on is the cow, or the bull in this case, because you are the bull, right? You can be the bull. It's an ad hoc network. You can jump on anytime you want. You might not make a whole lot of money, but you can do that. Anyway, you're potentially the producer of the bullshit. Alright? And everybody's concentrating on the bullshit because it's the result of you having been the bull and working to produce that bullshit the fastest. And you're in competition with hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of other bulls to produce that bullshit first. And so that's kind of how I define the discussions, or how should I say it? The discussions or the logical framework of the whole blockchain thing. But see, when you categorize it like that, you understand that you need the bulls in order to produce the bullshit. Now, by defining a blockchain as a database, you can substitute another bullshit creating process to substitute for the cows or bulls, as the case may be. And so you can kind of see how that's not really good for you, because that means that the product that they're talking about with quote unquote blockchain is not the product of something that you could have participated in the production of. And that's what separates it from Bitcoin and what Bitcoin does and other proof of work coins. And I think the semantic fog that has enveloped cryptocurrencies and meant to confuse a lot of people has definitely gotten a hold of the California state legislature. Anyway, continuing on. Section or B, this section shall remain in effect only until January 1st, 2022, and as of that date is repealed unless a later enacted statute that is enacted before January 1st, 2022 deletes or extends that date. Section 2, 11546.9 is added to the government code to read: the Secretary of the Government Operations Agency shall appoint a blockchain working group and designated the chairperson of that group on or before July 1st, 2019 to evaluate all of the following. Number 1, the uses of blockchain in state government and California-based businesses. They're going to find out they're completely fucking wrong about all this shit. Number 2, the risks, including privacy risks, associated with the use of blockchain by state government and California-based businesses. Number 3, the benefits associated with the use of blockchain by state government and California-based businesses. Probably not going to find too many. Because one of the problems about blockchains is if they're publicly mined, they take away a lot of the options that you have for hiding undisclosed income. As some criminals have found out by trying to use Bitcoin in an open and transparent way. Continuing on. Number 4, the legal implications associated with the use of blockchain by state government and California-based businesses. Number 5, the best practices for enabling blockchain technology to benefit the state of California, California-based businesses, and California residents. Okay, that's to be defined by them, dude. And it'll be great if you can actually figure out what it is. Number 6, the working group shall consist of participants from all of the following. Number 1, 3 appointees from the technology industry. Number 2, 3 appointees from non-technology related industries. Why? Number 3, 3 appointees with a background in law chosen in consultation with the Judicial Council. Number 4, 2 appointees representing privacy organizations. Number 5, 2 appointees representing consumer organizations. Number 6, the State Chief Information Officer or his or her designee. Number 7, the Director of Finance or his or her designee. 8, the Chief Information Officers of 3 other state agencies, departments, or commissions. Number 9, 1 member of the Senate appointed by the Senate Committee on Rules and 1 member of the Assembly appointed by the Speaker of the Assembly. C, the blockchain working group shall take input from a broad range of stakeholders with a diverse range of interests affected by state policies governing emerging technologies, privacy, business, the courts, the legal community, and state government. D, on or before July 1st, 2020, the blockchain working group shall report to the legislature on the potential uses, risks, and benefits of the use of blockchain technology by state government and California-based businesses. Number 1, the working group's report shall include recommendations for modifications to the definition of blockchain in Section 11546.8 and recommendations for amendments to other code sections that may be impacted by the deployment of blockchain. Number 2, the report submitted pursuant to this subdivision shall be submitted in compliance with Section 9795 of the Government Code. E, the members of the working group shall serve without compensation, but shall be reimbursed for all necessary expenses actually incurred in the performance of their duties. That's a pretty good provision. I like that. F, this section shall remain in effect only until January 1st, 2022, and as of that date is repealed, unless a later enacted statute that is enacted before January 1st, 2022 deletes or extends that date. With pertinence to what we just saw right there, number 1, let's see, and that's under D. And so D is on or before July 1st, 2020, the Blockchain Working Group shall report to the legislature on the potential uses, risks, and benefits of the use of blockchain technology by state government and California-based businesses. Now, I said that's for everybody there to be defining on their own. And we'd commented earlier, or at least I'd commented earlier, concerning their definition of a blockchain as a quote-unquote database, being kind of stupid. Number 1, under this subsection D is, the working group's report shall include recommendations for modifications to the definition of blockchain in section 11.546.8. and recommendations for amendments to other code sections that may be impacted by the deployment of blockchain. See, I often wonder what they envision the quote-unquote blockchain is. Whose blockchain are you talking about? Who's going to be mining it? So on and so forth. You know, is it going to be the Bitcoin blockchain? You're going to be competing for block space with Goldman Sachs on those layer 2 fucking SegWit Lightning Network bullshits. Yeah, I am kind of impressed that they're taking that into account, that their current definition as it being a decentralized ledger or database. I gotta wonder what their actual definition for quote unquote decentralized ledgers is. You know, and the fact that they would kind of subcategorize it alongside databases, I think that that's a questionable definition of it, because the blockchain is actually a product of a process. It's like the exhaust of a motor running. The real importance is how you come about it. It's a number of global participants, you know, and so it's like when you anticipate the blockchain in that kind of conceptual framework, it doesn't fit with a lot of the descriptions that we're seeing in stuff like legislation and even quote unquote blockchain projects. And so you know, it's really funny to me. It seems like there's a lot of semantic and mimetic disconnect here, and I've always warned that is kind of an intended effect, that there are certain interested groups within this space and within other tech industries that go around misdefining stuff to create enough ambiguity to basically dissuade a lot of people from trying to participate and then kind of corralling themselves as the monopoly masters or whatever. And I think that the one difference with cryptocurrencies is the focus of interest. The interest isn't on making money in the sense of, you know, trying to go out there and, you know, hustle your ass and move some product or you know, sell something or whatever to create the monetary value. It is to create the units for monetary value to be conveyed from one individual to another, from one business to another, from a business to a government entity, so on and so forth. And so that I think that's the one aspect of cryptocurrencies that confuses people the most, is that you have people telling you that, oh, this isn't money, you know, this is something else. You know, and if you look at the Bitcoin fucking white paper, it says right in the title, a peer-to-peer cash system. an electronic one at that. And so the argument that Bitcoin isn't exactly that, a monetary vehicle, it falls on its face. You know. I've tried to describe it multiple times on this show as such, that, you know, like, you have different containers for monetary value, and they have different rules, and they have different markets that they're usable within. And it's up to you as the user to define which ones are the best for you and which ones achieve what you're trying to achieve. And I think that because this has been something that's been assumed for a very, very long time, it's just been assumed that it's going to be, you're going to be using US dollars, or you're going to be using a US dollar denominated abstraction to be conveying or storing your monetary value in. Now, that assumption is gone. It's a big question mark now. You know, you could be storing your monetary value in Dogecoin now, and it doesn't fit anything with this fucking state government bullshit. So, you know, when you open the monopoly up as it has been, there's a lot of scrambling for trying to define for other people how and what to use. And, you know, I think the problem is that in itself is the problem, trying to do that, trying to tell the market you will convey your monetary value in fiat currencies, you will pay your taxes, blah, blah, you will. No, I won't. It's not just specifically I won't. It's I have the option to decide now. And that's an option that hasn't been available to us for a very, very long time. You know, we can recall certain fragments from this nation and other nations' history that has the concept of script. You know, a company script. Sold my soul to the company store. If you read through the lyrics for that song, and I can't remember the specific title for it, but if you type that into Google, sold my soul to the company store, type that into Google and hit enter, you'll find the song, the lyrics, so on and so forth, but read through it. It harkens back to a time when companies issued their own script. So they would pay you in their own script that you would be able to take to the company store and buy items with. Now you have to think about what was going on in an economy that was favorable to a government-issued currency. And if you look back at the history, look up the date that it was actually made, the song, and then go back and look at American history at that time. And you'll find some sort of economic calamity that the banks lost faith. They were clearly debasing the currencies or some shit like that. It was clear that you couldn't trust putting the money there. So you trusted your employer to compensate you in goods and services that you needed. It's an especially risky proposition because, your employer could take on a whole bunch of new labor and then devalue the shit out of their own script by, saying, okay, well, we'll pay them more or whatever. And next thing you know, the script that you had in hand is worth less and can buy less, and before you know it, you're in debt to the store. You're having to sell your soul to the company store in order to stay alive. But the difference between that and cryptocurrencies is, number one, the capability of exchange. I think that when people are looking at the price of Bitcoin and they're seeing the price rise, what they're discounting in all of this is the fact that there are only going to be so many Bitcoin. There are only so many Bitcoin out there in circulation, and that people are getting more of it. I mean, more people are getting into it. We have like Venezuela, we have Turkey now, and I read some reports that were saying that Turkey has like 18% of the people in Turkey are involved in cryptocurrencies. That's fucking crazy. That's almost 1/5 of the population. 1 out of 5 people is involved in cryptocurrencies or is holding cryptocurrencies, or some sub-segment of their population, of 18% of that, or I don't know, but it was a significant number of people. And what that means to me is, like, I've read through articles on this show where when you calculate out like the valuation in local markets in like Zimbabwe and Greece and other places that have been going through these financial fuck-ups, that the cryptocurrencies are worth a lot more within their borders. And it's just lower availability. Well, I think that people are taking advantage of that arbitrage, and that's making its way back to the market. The Bitcoin is going to where it's needed. That the Turkish citizens have been buying it, and so it's there instead of here for us to circulate. And so there's that much less on the market here to be circulated. And I'm sure there's some fractional reserving going on and whatnot, but nonetheless, people are taking payment of Bitcoin, and more Bitcoin has to come into their system just for their exchanges to continue to operate. They need the liquidity, right? And so they're paying more in off-site markets, and so that's draining the liquidity out of regulated markets, and that's causing the price to go up. Lack of availability. And it's a really simple effect to observe. Again, we're talking about cryptocurrencies that are global. Markets for those currencies that are global. So you cannot escape the effects of some sort of economic contagion somewhere else where they're already participating in these cryptocurrencies, because more and more of the people that are being subjected to the fucking cruelty of their nation's fiat currency are going to be hopping into these markets to store their monetary value in a vehicle that is more advantageous to them than their national fiat currency. It's just going to happen. It's been happening, and it's going to get bigger. I don't believe that the Fed's current policy is going to continue much longer. I think that there's not going to be enough manufacturing jobs and whatnot to be causing the kind of, how should I say it, economic activity level required in order to get us back up on our feet. At least not as it was previously defined. I think that mining, as much as people keep trying to wish away mining, I think that's going to save us. And I keep saying that, and I know some people look at that and think, nah, you're full of shit. But I really think that it's something that we will see within the next 2 to 5 years, that the trend is going to continue, that all the downplaying of NVIDIA and other participants in the hardware space, they're going to shut the fuck up, because their quarterly reports are going to keep showing fucking profit, that whatever little money people have in expendable income, they're putting it into things like mining, putting it into things like investing in cryptocurrencies. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. Actually, I wanted to cover one of the articles concerning that California state legislature thing, and this one's a little bit longer, and it's actually got an identity tagged to it. So we'll go ahead and do this one first, and then we'll break into some music. And this one's on ethnews.com. California legislature passes blockchain bill, and this is by Tim Prentice, writer for ethnews.com. Clearly, penis. And this is authored on August 28th, 2018 at 12:35 p.m. No indication of time zone. Shame on you, Tim. Despite its historical dominance of the tech industry, California has not moved very quickly to create legislation to encourage blockchain technology. However, on Monday, AB-2658 cleared the final legislative hurdles, passed by both houses, and having the respective amendments approved in each, the bill will now head to the governor for approval. In recent years, states other than California have been jockeying to become home to the next Silicon Valley, with Colorado, Delaware, Nevada, Ohio, Tennessee, and Wyoming all having passed legislation designed to attract and encourage blockchain businesses. No, Tim, they haven't. They've been passing legislation to try and contain the market for their best buddies. That's what they've been doing. Continuing on. These bills tend to fall into a few broad categories: prohibiting taxation of blockchains, Nevada and Wyoming. Well, that's a good one. Amending the state's electronic transfers law or corporate code, Delaware and Ohio, and or creating a working group to create a report on the issue, Connecticut. California's AB-2658 falls into the latter category. The bill, which was submitted to the legislature in February, calls for the creation of a working group to be tasked with reporting to the legislature, quote, the potential uses, risks, and benefits of the use of blockchain technology by state government and California-based businesses. The group would consist of around 17 members from both government and the private sector, and would have to complete its report by July 2020. California is also currently considering a bill that would amend its corporate code. This bill, which specifies that blockchains are an acceptable tool for maintaining corporate records, seems to be advancing, with a third reading of the bill ordered in the California State Assembly 3 weeks ago. The state also considered a bill that would have required certain businesses to obtain cryptocurrency licenses. However, that bill failed to advance. Thank goodness. That was probably a shit license, and that was presented 3 times, and yeah, apparently a 4th time. Anyway, California is weird. I think that they've got on one hand they've got a group of people that want to tax the very air you breathe, for some feel good measure or another, and then on the other hand you've got these tech libertarians who are like, hey, no, you got to leave the door open, otherwise the shit won't happen here, it will happen somewhere else, they will get the money. And that voice, the latter, really needs to get louder. Because I think the first group, the one that wants to tax the very breath you breathe, I think that they, if they are allowed to have too much of the discussion, that they're basically going to kick California the way of New York. I mean, and New York's another weird one too, where you have people that are super highly connected and super ultra mega rich. They're the ones getting the bit licenses. It's not Joe Blow on the street that's got this wonderful whiz bang idea that could liberate millions of people. No, it's not him. It's Goldman Sachs or projects that are being sponsored by Goldman Sachs. It's the Winklevi or one of the projects that they're associated with. It's not you. And I think that's one of the things that people miss about what permissionless means in cryptocurrency. Permissionless means I don't have to ask the state government. I don't have to ask the federal government. I can just fucking do it. That's what permissionless means. That you don't have to ask a government or corporate entity shit in order to conduct a transaction. And that's one of those trade-offs, when we're talking about a blockchain versus a database, that you have to consider is that currently, with the public mining it, you have the option of whenever you want transacting on chain from one person to another without the involvement of anybody else. And that's like the very thing that Bitcoin was created to do. And that's the very thing that competes with the way that we used to do this. And so again, you have to understand that cryptocurrencies are competition for a means of conveying monetary value. This has been held by banks. This has been held by small companies that were able to sneak in through the cracks. We've taken away their monopoly and opened it up to everybody. And so, of course, they want their monopoly back. And so they're busying themselves hanging out with legislators and doing these groups and whatnot, trying to change the discussion to where, again, they have advantage over the average Joe Blow on the street. And what I think that some of them fail to see, I think more and more of them are actually kind of understanding this, that Bitcoin was meant to happen. Bitcoin was caused to happen by the situation that was going on, where our current money was just, it's back in the 1950s as far as operations go, whereas we need a 24/7 electronic currency beyond credit from Visa, lagging in that 3 to 5 business day window of whether or not the transaction actually clears. We needed an alternative to that, and we have that with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that are proof of work. And I think that that's something that just needs to be maintained in focus, is that's what this technology does. It does what the firearm did back in the 12th century, when it became popular enough to use, was it changed the balance of power from governments and people that could build guns to anybody could build a gun. And so the guy that built the best guns, he was now the force. Build enough guns, put them in enough hands, now he's a military. Well, now we've done that with cryptocurrencies. I won't say blockchain, because again, blockchains are the bullshit. The real action is the bull, and the bull is you. Let's go ahead and throw down into some music. It's been a little bit, and what should I play? Let's go with System of a Down, Chop Suey, here on Coin Metal. And that was Pantera with Walk. And leave it to the Twitter feed to provide us with some fodder for the evening, now that we've gone through the California legislature's latest moves with regard to cryptocurrencies. I gotta hope that they don't regulate themselves out of their standing. And honestly, I don't think they will. I think California will be one of those places like Venezuela, where crypto will slowly take over the tech industry, and then the subsidiary industries, and then the support industries, and before you know it, it will expand out of the city centers where it's currently kind of cheap, or whatever the fuck term you want to use for it. And it will go back and forth, and I think that rural communities are going to find that cryptocurrencies advantage them in ways that they had not previously considered, as far as transferring monetary value and commerce concerning their products. Anyway, I got a few articles here that I wanted to get into. Damn, that's beautiful. I'm looking at one from Ed Rosenthal. He's given some recommendations for growing, and yeah, I'm terribly interested in that kind of stuff. And let's see, we covered that. Let's get into this one first before we get too crazy about anything else. This is on BitcoinMagazine.com. The Anatomy of Anonymity. How Dandelion could make Bitcoin more private. Many people know Bitcoin as an anonymous digital currency, one whose privacy features private for concealed payments in sketchy recesses of the internet's dark web. These same people would likely be surprised to learn that Bitcoin is far from anonymous, more pseudonymous than anything. Its underlying technology, the blockchain... no, it's not underlying technology, it's the bullshit. The process of the miners. Product of the miners, rather. Actually features a number of technical windows through which users could peep another user's identity. These interested parties, be they analytics companies, governments, or anyone with sufficient IT knowledge, can use peer-to-peer network analysis to link a Bitcoin public address to an IP address, allowing them to learn who owns a wallet and who they're sending funds to. In tracing transactions and public addresses back to their users' IP addresses, these quote spies, also known as adversaries, are effectively de-anonymizing users. An obvious breach of privacy the Bitcoin community has long wrestled with solutions to neutralize this problem. Entering the conversation is Dandelion, a protocol developed by Julia Fanti along with Shailesh Boja Venkata Krishnan, Soraya I'm not going to go through all of them. MIT, University of Illinois. If theory can hold up to in application, Dandelion would effectively neutralize the peer-to-peer analysis that plays a significant role in compromising user identity. The problem. Oh, and by the way, this is by Colin Harper, and I'm going to assume no penis, but it was authored on August 29th, 2018, 10:24 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you very much, Colin, for being precise as to when you authored this. Continuing on. The problem. Whenever someone sends a transaction on Bitcoin's network, typically that transaction is broadcast to multiple nodes until it is picked up by a miner and included in a block. This broadcast process is known as diffusion. It begins when the source node, the node that creates the transaction, transmits it to other nodes on the network. Once this node broadcasts the transaction, each of the other nodes that make up the network continues to independently diffuse the transaction by sending it to others with exponential delays. Presenting Dandelion. At the Building on Bitcoin conference in Lisbon, Portugal, Juliana Fanti explained that the source node's IP address can often be discerned because, quote, diffusion is susceptible to detection. When collaborating spy nodes receive a transaction, they can engage in peer-to-peer network analysis to retrace its steps through the network. Basically, by observing the timing of each broadcast and examining the structure of the relays, spies can trace, with high probability, that isn't necessarily foolproof, a transaction back to its source node. From here, the spy has high odds of gleaning the IP address of the transaction sender. Dandelion's solution. Dandelion aims to abstract the transaction relaying process to make it more complicated for adversaries to trace transactions. This would, in essence, make it nearly impossible to follow the breadcrumb trail that broadcast timings and relay structures lead back to the source node that originally transmitted the transaction. To achieve this, Dandelion seeds the transaction on a random path through a variable number of nodes before the transaction is diffused across the whole network. This random pathway is known as the stem phase of the protocol, as transactions relayed in the stage are shared only between one another, transmitting from one node to the next. The diffusion phase is known as the fluff phase, as the transaction is broadcast to multiple nodes to be spread across the network. Visually and in effect, both of these processes replicate a dandelion's anatomy, whence the terminology. In the stem phase, each node essentially has a 50-50 chance to either continue the stem phase by relaying the broadcast to another node, or diffuse the transaction to the rest of the network. If passed on, the next node plays the same odds, and the transaction is passed along one by one until one triggers the diffusion process. Adding the first transaction phrase before diffusion is meant to provide an added layer of anonymity to the transaction broadcasting process. If the network passes the transaction to multiple potential source nodes before diffusion, this should, in theory, obfuscate where a broadcast came from, thereby making it exceedingly difficult to definitively trace a transaction back to its source. That's a neat idea. Dandelion's growth. Dandelion's proposal is considered to be a feasible step towards solving Bitcoin's anonymity question that doesn't involve overhauling its code entirely to outfit it with some kind of peer-to-peer network obfuscation tools a coin like Monero is developing, for example. The team is often asked why it won't implement the same onion routing that Monero is focusing on. Fanti admitted in her talk that Monero is addressing the exact same problem Dandelion is trying to solve, but qualified this by stating that, quote, implementing this is really time sensitive, as the Monero deployment team has been working on it since 2014. Focusing instead on its own ground-up approach, Dandelion has come some ways since it was first introduced in 2017. After a peer review of its code found some glaring holes, the team revamped their efforts and released a new white paper with the updated method known as Dandelion++ as of May 2018. It's expected that Dandelion will be implemented into a future Bitcoin Core update, although it will not be ready for the forthcoming 0.17.0 release. Yeah, so there you have it. I think that's a pretty interesting way to obscure exactly the source node of the transaction. I think that's pretty cool. And I don't know. It's an implementation that we'll have to see how it pans out. I can't imagine how that would make it a little bit tougher to analyze exactly where the transaction started from. However, there is a record of its having occurred. So I don't know. Maybe some other data set could be analyzed to isolate the source IP. I mean, because there's a record of it. It's there. Got a lot of time to study it. So there better not be any holes in your methodologies, or somebody's going to find that shit. Anyway, yeah, there you have it. Dandelion. Apparently there's still development going on in the Bitcoin space. They haven't just completely stalled it, trying to push everybody to Lightning Network and off-chain bullshit. And this is a little bit further down that rabbit hole. This is on Coindesk.com. Russian agency to track crypto wallets of criminal suspects. That's potentially you. And this is by Anna Baydakova. So clearly, no penis. This is authored on August 30th, 2018 at 1:50 UTC. Rosfin Monitoring, the Russian government agency responsible for monitoring and preventing financial crimes in the country, is seeking to expand its internal systems to account for cryptocurrencies. The order, first reported earlier this week by the BBC, indicates that the agency wants to beef up its ability to monitor alternative types of transactions, including those made with cryptocurrencies. According to the publication, an improved system allowing for data about crypto wallets tied to certain individuals is being developed by Moscow Institute for Security and Information Analysis, SPI, with a price tag of roughly 195 million rubles, about $2.8 million. According to documents published through an electronic auction system that registers purchases and purchase requests from Russian agencies, Rosfin Monitoring should get the updated system before the end of the year. The SPI has created other law enforcement-focused tools in the past, according to the BBC. Outside of the documents, not much is known about the scope of the initiative, and the SPI didn't respond to a request for comment. Rosfin Monitoring declined to reveal any details about its crypto monitoring capabilities, with its press office saying in an email that information about the system is classified. That the agency would solicit such functionality is perhaps unsurprising, and its work could one day fit into a wider regulatory framework within Russia. As previously reported, policymakers and legislators in the country have gone back and forth on the question of cryptocurrency oversight. Last year, for example, it was reported that Rosfin Monitoring could play a possible role in monitoring transactions on regulated cryptocurrency exchanges. Yet the criteria for how that information would be added to Rosfin Monitoring systems isn't clear. In recent years, the number of people placed on the agency's list has been tabulated by those who have been charged over the social media posts that are considered extremists or anti-religious in nature. Right now, the list of individuals whose accounts have been blocked in Russia due to terrorism charges includes 8,600 people. The list of entities has 485 entries, with most of them being various Russian religious organizations. The database also lists 101 foreign entities and 415 individuals. Well, there's those censorship attempts that we're talking about. Exactly who the groups are and what they're trying to achieve. We can't tell from the outside. It's not really our concern. Whether or not the Russian government can actually intervene in their ability to receive funds via cryptocurrencies, that's a whole nother question. I would say that the answer is no. I think that cryptocurrencies are as such that with a significant amount of conjiggering on the part of the user is necessary, but it would make possible any type of funding that you actually required. You know, I know that's kind of a uncomfortable reality, but it's something that sits alongside that. What's his face? Cody Wilson and his 3D printed guns. Apparently, there's been a lot of scuttlebutt about that lately, but in the longer term, I think that such technological capability is going to push the development of firearms in ways that we haven't seen before. And I know that's an uncomfortable reality, but it's there. You know, we can try and hide from all of the technological capabilities that we're unleashing every day, but we're not going to be successful at it. That people are going to utilize these tools to their advantage, and we're not going to be able to monitor all the uses of them. We're probably not going to like all of the uses of them, but it's not going to be our call. You know, these things exist because there's a market demand for them, not because somebody just said, "Oh, these things are going to exist," and so they exist. No. There's a market call for them. There's a market demand for them, or they would not exist. You know, and so it's like when I consider all of these government agencies taking a look at cryptocurrencies and trying to stop quote unquote criminal activity, it's a waste of fucking time. You know, the more you study into the quote unquote criminal activity happening on cryptocurrency networks, the more you're going to be looking in the mirror. You're going to be finding people within your cabinet, within your office, within your home, who are at some point or another violating these regulations that you're considering drafting and or passing, and you're going to find yourself in a very unpleasant situation there. I think that's one of the foresights I think that we're seeing in California's legislature with regard to their pace of things. They're scheduling things out to 2022. Okay, so this is a wait and see how it forms kind of message to us. And I think at the end of 2022, though, they're going to find themselves in a position where they're no closer to having a definitive regulatory framework that's going to apply evenly and not completely arrest innovation within the confines of the borders of California. But that's not my call. You know, we'll see how that all shakes out. In the longer term, though, like I said, I think we're going to see these regulatory agencies and their groups are going to be reporting back to the Senate and saying, "Oh, you know, we could define this as the taxation point, but already your son is in out of compliance with this regulation. So if we do put this forward, it's directly going to ensnare you and your direct family. So do you want to push forward with this?" And of course the answer is going to be, "No! Don't do that. I got to get reelected." I mean, we're talking about money here, kids. We're talking about money that can be transmitted without anybody's permission or knowledge. So, I mean, God, there's never been a better tool for politicians. Never. I mean, what could be better about money, sums of money that nobody knows you have, that you could devote to whatever you want within your campaign? You can flex some arms, you know, you can put up some ads, and nobody can stop you. Yeah. That's the world you live in, kids. Learn to enjoy it. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. I'm feeling the need. Peace sells, but who's buying? Megadeth. Old school Megadeth. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Soundgarden with Face Pollution. I was actually going to get it one before that, but Bong was calling. Needed one more hit. Anywho, got a few tabs open now that we did not previously have before. Anyway, continuing on. Got this on Cointelegraph.com. This is by Max Jakubowski. And, yes, clearly, penis. This is authored, let's reload this thing and see if it's really approximately 1 hour ago. Open Finance launches regulated alternative for trading system for securities tokens. Open Finance, a security token trading platform, has launched a regulated alternative trading system, ATS, for security tokens, according to information shared with Cointelegraph August 29th. In the US and Canada, an ATS is a non-exchange trading venue that matches buyers and sellers to find counterparties for transactions. They are usually regulated as broker-dealers instead of as exchanges. In an email, Juan Hernandez, CEO at the US-based Open Finance, confirmed to Cointelegraph that the company has created the trading system, noting that the official press release will appear later on the company's Medium account. Earlier this month, cryptocurrency exchange Huobi entered into a strategic partnership with Open Finance. The press release stated that the partnership was a move toward a more regulated security token market, and growing confidence in the U.S. market regards Huobi's strategic investment. Hernandez said, quote, "We believe that security tokens are the future of finance and that Huobi's investment in our trading platform is reflective of the rising interest around the globe in this emerging financial ecosystem. I don't know why." In the U.S., a security token is any token which is found to be a security by employing the Howey test, i.e. the token offers an opportunity to contribute money and to share in the profits of an enterprise managed and partly owned by respondents. Additionally, the scheme involves an investment of money in a common enterprise with profits to come solely from the efforts of others. Last week, U.S.-based registered broker-dealer Rialto Trading announced that the company has been working with the regulators to expand its trading operations and include blockchain-related securities, according to PR Newswire press release August 23rd. On July 16th, leading U.S. cryptocurrency exchange and wallet service Coinbase announced that it had received approval from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, to list digital coins considered to be securities. A week later, Coinbase retracted its statement, saying it was, quote, "not correct to say the SEC and FINRA approved Coinbase's purchase of Keystone because SEC was not involved in the approval process." The SEC confirmed that they did not give Coinbase, quote, "explicit approval for the deal," while the spokesperson wrote that Coinbase's communication with the SEC had been of a, quote, "informal nature." Yeah, I don't see that FINRA or the SEC really has any place to regulate Coinbase. I still keep having trouble with this because, as far as I can tell, We already have all of the legislation that we need with regard to criminal activity. The only thing that remains then that seems to be under contention is who gets to do what, who gets to participate, and to what extent. And again, we will run into this situation where legislators are trying to define for themselves participation within other people's projects where there was no participation absolutely necessary or requested. And I think that while in the U.S. some may be willing to tolerate that regulatory scrutiny, that a great deal of the projects that are coming out don't necessarily care what the SEC or the CFTC or FINRA or anybody else has to say about their project. And I don't imagine this reality is going to go away anytime soon. I mean, I know there are people out there that would like to tell you that you need some sort of compliance and whatever in your project. Well, these people are willing to concede to that. You know, maybe they're within a legislative area, jurisdiction that doesn't allow for your activity. Okay. Take it somewhere else. Take it where somebody doesn't give a fuck how you're playing. And play there. Before you know it, people from elsewhere will be investing in your project. And nobody will have any say over it. And I think this is the one thing to be learned from the ICO market, is that as errant as it may have been, in my eyes at least, as a funding model for coin projects, it was necessary for it to be there, for people to figure out, hey, this maybe isn't the best way to do things, but nonetheless, these markets actually continue to exist, and I can't find any fault with that. It's not up to me or anybody else to say to you, you can't invest in this. If you so desire to invest in something, I'm sure there is a way to facilitate it. You might experience additional premiums and setup and whatnot, but I think that if you can keep the friction low enough, that the friction will stay relatively low for a relatively decent period of time before you start experiencing it again. But, if you want to do the off-chain stuff, go for it, man. Don't even let what I say here stop you as far as, what kind of projects you want to invest your time in. It's not up to me to make that decision for you. It's not up to the CFTC or the SEC or anybody to define that for you. The safest hands are always your own. The best eyes when it comes to deciding where to invest your money are always yours. Anyway, the next one I got here is on BitcoinWarrior.net. NASAA steps up its cryptocurrency probe in Canada and the US. NASAA, the North American Securities Administrators Association, has released a press statement announcing that there are over 200 active investigations on cryptocurrency-related investment products and ICOs in the United States and Canada. Operation Crypto Sweep, sanitizing the North American crypto space. Yeah, good luck with that. In the press statement issued yesterday on its official website, NASAA said that state and provincial securities regulators in the U.S. and Canada are involved in over 200 active investigations of ICOs and cryptocurrency-related investment products. These investigations are part of extensive efforts stemming from, quote, Operation Clean Sweep, Crypto Sweep, which so far has resulted in 46 enforcement actions involving ICOs and crypto-related investments. According to Joseph B. Borg, resistance is futile, NASAA president and the director of the Alabama Securities Commission, not all ICOs are fraudulent, but firms dealing in ICO projects and cryptocurrency-related investment products should ensure compliance with existing securities laws. Quote, while not every ICO or cryptocurrency-related investment is a fraud, it is important for individuals and firms selling these products to be mindful that they are not doing so in a vacuum state. Not doing so in a vacuum. State and provincial laws or regulations may apply, especially securities laws. A strong culture of compliance should be in place before, not after, these products are marketed to investors. Dude, we have absolutely no fucking control over it, and neither do you. So, grow the fuck up. Joseph Borg also advised investors to carry out due diligence when purchasing cryptocurrencies and other digital tokens, saying, quote, be cautious when dealing with promoters who claim their ICO offering is exempt from securities registration, but do not ask about your income, net worth, or level of investing sophistication. Do your homework and contact your state or provincial securities regulator with any concerns. Give me a fucking break. You know what? You wouldn't even be involved in this space, and if you are, you need to go back and deal in fucking fiat markets and shit. If you're involved in this space, you really shouldn't be concerned about regulatory compliance. As I said, if there's a market available and you want to participate in it, there's a facilitating medium available. I guarantee it. Continuing on. Operation Crypto Sweep is a coordinated series of enforcement actions by numerous securities regulators on fraudulent ICOs and cryptocurrency investments. The operation first commenced in May of 2018. This concerted regulatory effort is aimed at suspected securities fraud, but regulators are also finding cases of other violations of securities laws, such as failing to properly register a product before offering such a product to investors. Dude, if it's registered in the Isle of Man and they have no such regulatory requirements, TFB, man. Too fucking bad. Separate from the enforcement actions of the NASAA, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is probing cryptocurrency exchange firms in the country and weighing in on the growing debate on whether digital tokens classify as securities. The post-NASAA steps up its cryptocurrency blah 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 first appeared on Unhashed. Yeah, I've said this again and again and again, and I probably will until the end of time. These organizations don't have any jurisdiction over your fucking desktop. If you're launching or mining a project that isn't in compliance with them just because they haven't bothered to register with the NASAA or the SEC or the CFTC or the FINRA or the fucking whoever, if that's their only glitch, that they haven't bothered to register with these entities, that they aren't bothering to collect all the fucking metadata that these assholes want on everybody transacting on your network, it doesn't make it a quote-unquote illegal security. It's simply an unregistered security. It's not for you to regulate. It's unregistered. There you go. I mean, they're expecting 14-year-olds who understand how to build blockchains and Genesis blocks and all that other crap to be mindful of their regulatory borders. And I'm sorry, kids, that's not the case. People are creating shit. The only question is where it's going to be deployed. And they might ask themselves, gosh, if I deploy in the U.S., am I going to have to put up with the NASAA or FINRA or any of that? And you'll be deprived of the initial participation in their shit. Now, I can guarantee you, if you were to go back in time, right, and you were to have all of the regulatory compliance bullshit in place that they expect of this market now, Bitcoin never would have launched. They would have banned fucking mining completely by then. They would have had it classified under money transmitter and all that other bullshit, and that'd be that. And to me, it's humorous because the thing that hasn't changed this whole time is your ability to generate means to participate. And so it's like, the only thing that's changed is you've got more avenues to participate via now. And yet the ability to quote unquote really enforce beyond, putting you in cuffs and shit and shutting down your websites, it's a really limited scope of ability as far as enforcement goes. And I think that the failure of such will be taken advantage of all parties, not just poor people that need to, but rich people who want to, because the premiums are lower there in those markets than in the regulated markets, because the regulated markets have to collect metadata on you, have to keep all kinds of fucking data on you that makes them a massive treasure trove for anybody trying to get that data. It makes them a target for all kinds of scams, phishing, fucking, what's that other one? Social engineering. And we just saw that with, what's his face? Derek something or other. I can't remember his last name. But a significant, oh, damn it, it almost came to me. Anyway, he lost a significant amount of money, and it was due to social engineering via a customer service agent for his cell phone carrier in collusion with an outside entity. And they extracted somewhere around, his estimates are about $24 million in cryptocurrency, or $200 million, and one's 24 in damages. I don't know, I'm kind of confused on all that. But the point being, it was millions and millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency that was siphoned out of his accounts due to the collusion between an outside entity and somebody within the customer service agency that he was, or that was being used by his cell phone carrier. I mean, you want to talk about criminal activity? That's what you want to be busting. You don't want to be busting some fucking kid trying to create a new currency for other people to transact in. You want to be busting the people that are trying to steal that money from other people, because they're obviously thieves, and we already have regulations to deal with people that steal shit, don't we? We already have regulations for people that defraud you, don't we? I mean, come on now. We can't act like all of the regulatory apparatus needed in this space doesn't already exist. I mean, let's look back in time now. We got Paycoin, they got busted. We got BitConnect, they got busted. And there's a whole bunch of others that have been busted. These people defrauded people, had visible and documentable evidence. The world had it, that they specifically set out to defraud people. So, all of the elements of the crime were publicly known. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when there would be some sort of enforcement action against them, and that has transpired. So, what's the panic? What's the urgency? In my mind, it's just an effort to limit participation. Kick you the fuck out, basically. But here's the thing. If I can't participate in cryptocurrencies, they don't have any value to me. I don't have access to them. I can't mine them. If I can't mine them, well, I mean, I can. I'm just saying that if that ever changes, that I'm not the producer of the bullshit, or I can't be a producer of the bullshit because the bullshit is coming from a different source, then it has no value to me. And I think this is a point that a lot of people seem to miss when they're talking about regulation within this space. But just because I can't participate in it and don't want to participate in it because I can't participate in it doesn't mean that somebody who can participate in it, because they don't have that regulatory framework constraining their options, they will participate. And while I'm excluded, Venezuela is going to blossom into a fucking cryptopia. And that's not bullshit. That's reality. That Venezuela just isn't going to have the money for the enforcement actions. They're not going to be able to pay enough cops to point guns at you to make you stop. And crypto is going to take over their economy, if it hasn't already. And I envision that Venezuela is just a little further down the road than a lot of other places. And, you know, the residue of the economic shocks they're experiencing right now, you can see it in all kinds of news articles about what's going on in Venezuela. But what you can't see is how the people are actually adapting. And from what I've seen, they're participating in cryptocurrencies. And I don't expect that trend will slow down or stop. You know, and the government has gone through all kinds of steps, all kinds of phases to meet to the point where they've capitulated on trading, they've capitulated on mining, and they've gone to the point of producing a quote-unquote national cryptocurrency, which, by the way, isn't receiving all that much participation. But they've shown us at every point the effectiveness of regulation on this space. And I think it's something that other regulators in other nations really need to take a close look at. Because they're going to find that enforcement actions are two things. They're a tax suck. They divert funds that should have been spent elsewhere, regulating other markets. And they're an inhibitor of the future economic growth and development of their country. I.e., lost money and lost time. Can't get time back. I think that realization has come to the state legislature of California, which is why they have such a limited window on that piece of legislation that we read earlier, limiting themselves to 2022 to revise and repeal or extend or whatever. But they're taking a very nuanced perspective to it, in that they're taking their time and figuring out the right way to go about it. And I think that's probably a little more patient and a little better strategy than we've seen in other states, where they've sought to be proactive in limiting the participation of their constituents, which is fucking stupid. It's just stupid. It's counterproductive to everything. It doesn't help crypto. It doesn't help the people in your state. It doesn't help your state's economy. And I think over this next year or two, we're going to figure that out, where the definition between a successful state and an unsuccessful state in the crypto sphere is going to be the volume of regulatory friction that participants are experiencing. And that's going to be mining, exchanges, commerce, what have you. New York, I expect it to be a relative ghost town, because they're trying to use their current monetary monopolies as tools to inhibit the development of the economy of New York in the crypto space. And I think that's really unfortunate for the people of New York, but the rest of the world that doesn't experience that regulatory friction isn't going to be slowing down anytime soon. And, they might think that they can pull the China thing where they just copy other people's shit, patent it, and then sue them out of existence. I don't see that lasting very long, because all court time costs money, and you do have to pay lawyers. And one of these days, you're going to end up with one of those court cases that's tied up for a few years and costs you millions and millions and millions of dollars, and doesn't actually stop other entities in other jurisdictions from replicating the same exact technology and getting that first mover advantage right out from under your ass. That threat exists, kids. It exists. And so when you're trying to think of ways to block other participants from encroaching on your current path, you've got to consider that threat exists. And it doesn't exist for just you. It exists for everybody else too. Anyway, I want to go ahead and close this episode out. Thank you very, very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because the NASAA can't do it for you, no matter how much they imagine they can. Thank you again for listening. And as far as a last dance is concerned, I haven't actually picked one out. And so I'm doing that right now. What should it be? What should it be? I kind of wish I had a little more interaction with my audience for that specific purpose, picking the first and last dances. Well, I think we've gone far enough that we can thread this one down. Infectious Grooves, Punk It Up, Last Dance, here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and you all have an excellent evening.